So the real question of this video is, can we make a world in 20 minutes or less? Hello adventurers, I am the Welsh DM, the one Welshman who forgot to put his own accent into the world he built. When we as GMs look out into the realm of fantasy fiction and TTRPG actual plays, we see all number of worlds that are incredibly deep and rich. And we can easily therefore come to the conclusion that our worlds need to be equally as rich, deep, and exquisitely crafted. But the fact is, that is an unrealistic goal. Worlds like Exandria from Critical Role or the breadth of the Cosmere from Brandon Sanderson are unattainable to us common folk. Whether that be the time needed to craft it in the first place, the unreal amount of documentation you need to keep it together, or simply the fact that our worlds aren't going to be going out to an audience of millions and therefore need that level of depth. In reality, all you need to have an enjoyable game of D&D or Daggerheart or Draw Steel is a reasonably coherent setting for a narrative to take place. And I think we could all do with understanding that an okay world is more than good enough. Provided they are wide enough to keep the players engaged, interesting enough for a compelling story, and coherent enough for us to keep our own sanity, that's gonna be plenty. So let's get out our constructor's toolbox and discuss some simple methods to construct a pretty decent world for our games, and the tricks that make it interesting and engaging for our players. And remember, an okay world is better than no world at all. Now, before you get started on building a world, you need to decide what kind of story you're wanting to tell in it. Because the genre is going to shape the world just as much as it's going to shape the story. Every genre has its rules that need to be followed in order to invoke that kind of setting and tone. And the reason this is both important and extremely useful to us as GMs is it reduces down the scale of what is otherwise a fairly daunting task in creating a world from scratch. Because generations of writers have built these foundations for us to build our own narratives and stories off of. So make your life a little bit easier and just use them. Plus, playing off tropes is kind of fun. Tropes exist for a reason. Our brain recognizes them and enjoys that sense of familiarity. Reliability in narrative is actually one of the key components to having an enjoyable time. When people sit down to enjoy a fantasy story like you would get in a game of D&D, for example, they're expecting magic and dragons and knights and kingdoms. They're not expecting space travel, eldritch horrors, aliens, or guns. Of course, the wonder of tropes is they are pillars of narrative that you can shape and twist subtly to fit your storytelling needs. Genre tropes are extremely helpful and useful when you're coming up with your world, but you don't have to follow them religiously, and you can make your own alterations within their structure. Because just as much as we humans love a trope in storytelling, we also enjoy them being subverted every now and again. Basically, what I'm saying is by identifying and then familiarizing yourself with the genre that your adventure or campaign is going to play in, is it gives you the tools you need to craft a world that is suited to that narrative. It helps get you in the right frame of mind when you're going into creating the world. And when you understand that, you then understand the kind of greater powers that are at play in your world, such as a magic system or kingdoms. And then you begin to question just quite what they are and what purpose they serve your story. A fantasy world expects magic. So the question is, what does that magic look like? Where does it come from, and what does it do to the people who use it? In contrast, a science fiction narrative is looking more for space travel and technology. So what real world examples can you push forward into the future and see what they become? Or how do ships travel faster than light in your world? In short, if you figure out what genre you're going to play in, you get a starting seed for your world that you can then cultivate and grow as you build it. So with an understanding of the narrative concept of your world, how do you want to build it? When it comes to world building, especially in TTRPG spaces, you will often hear of two different techniques: top-down or bottom-up world building. In case you haven't heard of them before, how they basically break down is top-down starts with the premise of building out the great power structures of the world. Where did the world come from? Who are the gods? What is the magic system in place? And then filters down from there, building out the world, the regions, the kingdoms, and then the people. Conversely, bottom up works the other way around. You start with the starting location you expect the campaign to play in, figuring out who the individual people are there, and then question what larger structures do they play in, what gods exist, and then question where did the world come from. Neither system is necessarily better, it's just about figuring out which one is better for you personally. For me, I love gods and magic and the concepts of creation, so I nearly always work from a top-down perspective. But if the thing that really gets your creative juices going is the people of the world, the NPCs, the party you're going to meet on a Tuesday night, or you just have a really good idea for a starting city, then bottom up is probably a better system for you. If you can, I'd say experiment. Try building a world from top down, try building a world from bottom up, and see which one really vibes with you going forwards. Ultimately, it's about finding what part of building a world excites you and starting there, because if you can start from a place of fun and passion rather than forcing yourself to do other things, then your world is going to be that much more enjoyable because people are going to see the love and care that you've put into it. The rest can come when you need it in time. As okay GMs, I think with both of these styles, it's important to recognise just where the time sink is going to be when creating your world. For a top-down method, a lot of your world building is going to happen before your first session, because you've got to work from that grand scale down to a point where you can actually run a first adventure. Conversely, with bottom up, you'll probably be able to start your campaign a little sooner because you'll have the concept of the starting area down, but it means you're going to have to come up with these grander scale things on the fly, which risks potentially coming into conflict with yourself down the line. Of course, this isn't exclusive. With a top-down method, you might be really comfortable making up NPCs and small minor details of the world on the fly, and you want to invest your initial time in creating the grand structures that perhaps you're less comfortable making. Or alternatively, you can actually spend a lot of time before session 0 building out the world from a starting town out to a kingdom estate, out to a continent, out to the world, and to the multiverse, before ever touching your players. Bottom up can still just as much be about a lot of prep as well. Ultimately, consider which one will work best for you, which one will make your life at the table much less stressful, and your time creating the world much more enjoyable. And then once you have figured out which system works for you, go and check out today's sponsor to help you build the world. This video is not technically sponsored by Runic Press and their brand new Kickstarter, What's My Foundation? What's My Foundation is a sequel to the incredibly received What's My Motivation that made hundreds of characters come to life in brilliant depth and detail. And What's My Foundation seeks to do the same thing for your worlds, providing you with a thoughtful, engaging guide to take you through the elements that go into building a fully fleshed out world. Inside its cover, you'll find it packed with guided prompts, structured approaches, and thought experiments to help you in the process of taking your world from creation to civilization. I've worked with the Runic Press team for a long time now, but this book has been going on in the background out of my sight, and I got a sneak peek of it recently, and it is incredible. The level of detail and the extensive nature of research that has gone into the book cannot be done justice in this video. It starts with discussions on the origins of your universe, encouraging you to think about how your universe came into being and what role the deities had in that. As I said earlier, my favourite thing about world building is these kind of creation myths and the role that gods have, so this is probably going to be my favourite area of the book, but it's got plenty of stuff too for the bottom-up developers. As you'll progress through the book, you'll go through sections on the origins of the world, giving you a whole host of potential biomes and regions that could exist within your world, and ideas for the flora and fauna that can be found within them, before finishing with the origins of civilization, forcing you to question just what kinds of cultures and people grew up in the different biomes that you've decided upon, and how their actions throughout history have shaped the world as it is today. I could gush about this book all day, but I don't want to give you all of the details here. You need to go check it out for yourself. If this book sounds like your jam, and to be honest, if you're watching this video, it almost certainly is, follow the link in the description to go check out the Kickstarter and support it right now. The project is live right now, so you can go grab yourself a copy of What's My Foundation for your own uses, and if you missed out on What's My Motivation, you can grab that at the same time as well. Trust me, if you like world building as much as I think you do, this book is going to become your new best friend. At least, your new best friend that's made out of paper. Now, as much fun as sitting in a dark room fueled by quantities of caffeine that only gods can endure, crafting a world with your own two hands is, it is more fun when you do it with other people. The meme of the GM laughing maniacally to themselves over the evil things they're putting into the world is fun, but ultimately this game is played around a table with your friends. So it's important to remember that it's their world as much as it is yours. And honestly, this is the crux of what makes a world good enough for your game. If your players get involved in building it, then they're going to love it. And once they love your world, then you're golden. Your adventures are going to go off without a hitch because your players are going to be excited to find out about the thing that they helped create. But it's also about sharing the load. You don't have to do all of the creative work for your world building, and to be honest, you shouldn't. So much of the pressure and stress that comes with the GMing is thinking that you have to come up with everything by yourself, and that's just not true. At the end of the day, 5 minds are better than 1. So, take your world to your session 0, put it in front of your players, and ask them to help you mold it and craft it into something that's perfect for all of you. Just like with your villains, as I mentioned in the last video in this series, hold on loosely to your world and invite others in to collaborate with you. Yes, you can have your anchor points, those crucial elements of the world that you desperately want to be there as the GM. But then around those, hammer out the kinks, sand down the edges with your players to build out a world that is fit for everyone. As I said, it's important to remember, you're not the only one with a vested interest in this world. It's a world for everyone at the table. I mean, within Elvoria, the setting for unrolled stories, there are all manner of things that are in that world that I absolutely adore now that I never would have come up with myself. And the world is better for it. A shady billionaire mafia that runs a sport league, ancient runecraft that was lost to the generations that the authoritarian government desperately want to get their hands on, dark blood rituals happening in blighted caves that bind demons onto mortal forms that definitely is not linked to the underlying secret plot of the campaign at all. I've said too much. The point is, collaborative world building is a joy that not only makes your world deeper and more interesting, but it also makes less work for you as the GM. You can do half the work and have your friends do the rest. Being an okay GM is about being good enough for your table. And if you build a world based on your players' ideas, that is the easiest way in the world to achieve that. The last thing I want to talk about is perhaps my favourite bit of world building advice, and I think it's the thing that a lot of people forget about when they first get into world building. Leave rough edges. What I mean by this is don't make a perfect world. Don't have everything explained, don't have every problem solved, don't have every region mapped. You need to leave gaps, leave unanswered questions, have problems and mysteries waiting for the players to uncover them. A perfect world is boring, there's nothing to discover, and discovery is half of the fun. Remember, you're building these worlds to tell exciting stories in them, and exciting stories don't come from perfect worlds. They come from unexplored possibilities and unexplained mysteries. So we as world builders need to make intentional efforts to put those into our worlds. It's far too easy to fall into the trap of mapping out every single thing that's in the world for fear of your players going there and you not being prepared. But spoiler alert, that doesn't ever matter. There's 2 particular ways I recommend going about leaving rough edges. The first is poorly defined regions, and the second one is lingering plot hooks. Poorly defined areas is basically just not finishing the job of world building out an area. You might have a few bullet points down for that area of the map as a concept of what's over there, and that's more than enough. This gives you the scope to adopt player ideas from session 0, or to adapt that area of the world as the story takes you in a new direction and you need a different kind of tone from that area. It's about giving yourself the flexibility to alter the world, plus also saving you a bunch of time and effort. Plus, if you then get the spark of creativity halfway through your campaign, you still have undefined areas of the world that you can put these new ideas. Meanwhile, lingering plot hooks is about conceptualizing what kinds of stories you can or want to tell in particular places. Remember, we're building these worlds to tell stories at the end of the day. By writing a couple of 1 to 2 concepts for an adventure in a certain location, when your larger campaign takes you in those directions, you already have an idea as to what kind of stories can play out when the party reach there. It's not about planning out an entire adventure, it's about planting a couple of seeds that you can cultivate later on if you need to. Simply put, I would encourage you as an OK GM to leave your world unfinished, and give yourself the room to grow with your world. And give yourself the flexibility to alter it to what you need it to be as the story and adventure progresses. Look, world building is great fun. It's probably one of my favourite parts of being a GM. But I do stand by the fact that probably about 50% of that joy comes from my friends uncovering the world and the secrets that I've buried within it. So don't get bogged down in creating a perfect world before anyone gets to see it. Get yourself enough on paper and then showcase it to your friends. just remind yourself why you're building it. Focus on the story that you want to tell in this world and the people you're going to be telling that story with, and then add things to that world that will excite them just as much as you. The level of work that you put into a world is somewhat a reflection of you as a GM, but it's a reflection of the campaign as well. If you're planning a grand sweeping 5-year campaign, good luck to you if you are, then yes, perhaps you want to put more time into world building before you start the first session. But if you're running a tight, condensed 10-session adventure, then you don't need to build out every corner of the world, because odds are you're just not going to go there. On our quest to become okay GMs, it's okay to recognize what's actually needed for your game and invest the time in that rather than other things that you don't expect to come up. Be kind to yourself. Don't put more stress on yourself than you actually need to. Anyway, that's enough world building for now. I think we've built a pretty good one. If you enjoyed this video, please do give a like, and if you enjoyed this sort of stuff, why not go check out the rest of the How to Be an OK GM playlist. Other than that, drop your own simple world building tips in the comments, and while you're down there, don't forget to check out What's My Foundation over on Kickstarter. Anyway, I do believe that's it. I think we've built a pretty okay world at this point. So, until we do this again, you keep an eye out for dragons. I'm going to go see about adding my accent to my world, and remember to keep telling stories. Honestly, even okay GMs could make a better world than this one.